Hello again and welcome to another Warhammer 40k Imperial Guard After Action Battle Report. So today's video is in relation to the last battle report that I put up, which was the Mordian Iron Guard versus the Tau Empire. So yeah, it was really good to have the Iron Guard back on the field. It was I've been using my Steel Legion a lot, I've been using my Black Templars a lot, I've been using my Scions a lot, and it was just really, it was like stepping back into a comfy pair of slippers. I just took a nice amount of infantry, did the usual buffs, usual upgrades, you know, melter guns, plasma guns, las cannons, some Leman Russes, tried out some Hellhounds for a change, but overall it was just nice to you know, it was just a nice to go back to using what what I'm most familiar with. Yeah, and it was nice to play against Tau. Haven't actually played against Tau. Well, I might have played against them once or twice, but haven't played against Tau an awful lot in 8th edition. So it was nice to play something a bit fresh, as I play a lot of power armor. I think the majority of the players, I mean, this is probably true for most people, but the majority of the people that I play against are power armor armies. A lot of Space Marines of different flavors, basically. You know, you guys know I play against Blood Angels a lot. I play against Death Watch a lot. And whenever I go down, that's just, you know, playing at home against those armies. Whenever I go down to the club, I always end up playing against you know, Blood Angels player or White Scars player or Ultramarines player. There's so many different Space Marines, so it's nice to play something a little different. Nice for my lasguns actually to be able to wound things on 4s, which, you know, just nice feeling. But yeah, what we're going to do is I'm going to go through my list, what I liked about it, what I didn't like about it. Then go through the Tau list, what I thought was good, what I thought wasn't particularly good. And in general, we're going to talk about the Tau in general as well. So, what did I have in my list? I had 3 basic Leman Russes, so I wasn't using tank commanders, I was using just basic Leman Russes. And then I had 3 Hellhounds with the Hull Heavy Flamers and Inferno Cannons, 10 squads, 4 Las Plas, 4 Las Mel, 1 Missile Plasma, 1 Missile Melter, 4 command squads, all identical, autocannon, flag, sniper rifle, and then 4 company commanders and 2 Lord Commissars. Some of you will be wondering how did I take 6 people, 6 HQ choices in a single brigade. I just took an auxiliary HQ. I realised at the time that that I'd taken one too many characters, so I only used 11 command points in that game. So that's what he's doing. Although what I could have done is easily broken. I could have taken an extra brigade if I'd wanted to, because I could have taken 3 squads and 2 characters and made a brigade and given myself +3 command points. But I didn't, because that wasn't my intention. I'd made a mistake, so I kind of, you know, as I'd made a mistake and I noticed early on, that's how I rectified it, basically. So yeah, why did I take the list that I took? Well, one, I wanted to show the normal Leman Russ, because I know I'm a big proponent of the Leman Russ tank commander on the channel, but I've been using normal Leman Russes for a long time now, thanks to my Steel Legion list. And I have to say, I kind of now would struggle to go back to all tank commanders. I do really like the tank commander. I think the tank commander is really powerful. And I think if I started facing a lot of armies where they had -1 to hit, I would I'd be wishing I had my tank commanders. But for now, it's kind of, I'm finding it's okay to have just, you know, an equal mix of tank commanders to regular Leman Russes, or even just just plenty of regular Leman Russes. I just wanted to showcase that you can still get the job done with the regular Leman Russ, and that's what happened. You know, there was an armour off between 2 Leman Russes and 3 Hammerheads, and the Leman Russes were supported by infantry. But you saw what happened there. I mean, yeah, Longstrike was unlucky, but Longstrike, he slips up once, and you have an opportunity to kill him, you take it, and that's what we did. You know, Longstrike, he didn't get what he needed to do, and so I just punished him for that and just took him out. When that rail cannon was gone, the 2 Ironheads were no threat for the Leman Russes. It's just the fact, I guess, Tau will probably, in their codex, get the ability to shoot twice if they stay still with their tanks, like most people do. But for now, the fact that the Leman Russ is able to stay still and just blast away pretty much means they get to do a lot of firepower, which was good. What else? So yeah, the Leman Russes were good. Hellhounds were good-ish. They didn't really do a lot though. Me and my opponent both thought what was going to happen was I was going to steamroll his stealth suits because of my Hellhounds not having to roll to hit, and that he would steamroll my armour. And what actually happened is I ended up destroying all his armour relatively easily, and the supremacy of the Leman Russ was displayed. And the Hellhounds, the sort of difficulty with them was displayed. Yeah, sure, they automatically hit, but stealth suits are toughness 4 now, which is something I didn't realise, instead of toughness 3. So they're wounding the stealth suits on 3s, not 2s. And then the stealth suits get a 3-up save, because it's only AP -1. Stealth suits get a 3-up save basic. So when they're in cover, you know, it's AP -1, but +1 to the enemy save, so they go back to their 3-up. And then there's drones around. So your opponent can roll a couple of dice to see if he passes his armor saves. If he drops one, he can just put one on a drone. And normally that'll be enough to see him through. So, it was interesting. So the opponent can roll the dice one at a time for their saves. And then if he fails one, he'll take the wounds, is what I'm saying. But then the next wounds he can just put on some drones for save protocol. Okay. And the fact, so those stealth suits, toughness 4, 2 wounds each, 3-up save, just absolutely brutal. Absolutely brutal. So yeah, that was my list. The infantry, you guys saw. I mean, I've said for a while on the channel that there's ways to really get around the Imperial Guard leadership issues now without having to take, conscripts and stuff. And, since the conscript nerf and commissar nerf. And you guys saw it here. I didn't lose a single person to battle shock. I had to use some stratagems to stop it from happening, but I didn't lose a single person to battle shock. And that meant that my opponent wasn't getting any free kills, so to say. Whereas I made 2 or 3 of my opponent's models run away thanks to battle shock, which may not seem like a huge amount, but when your opponent's only running 18 fire warriors and you make about 3 of them run away, it's a significant. That's a noticeable amount. So yeah, battle shock was, as you can see, how I mitigated that was I was leadership 7 basic, but +1. But I had a Lord Commissar in each blob, which made me leadership 9. I then had a flag I always had a command squad with a flag nearby, which meant I'd be leadership 10, and then I always made sure that 2 models were base to base in every squad. Made leadership 11, so my opponent would kill like 6 of my models, and the only way I would fail is if I rolled a 6, because 6 plus 6 is 12. And often when it got close, I'd just be like, 1 command point, take the leadership test on a D3 instead, boom, passed. Did that 2 or 3 times. And I think once I only had to use the 2 command point auto rally twice. Maybe even only once. So it just shows that I probably only spent about 4 command points out of my 11. I only spent 4 command points on keeping the men in line, and the rest of the time I was just able to use them on extra orders and stuff like that. So So the list I thought worked really, really well. It was slightly less infantry than I would normally take. I will admit, even my opponent said only 100 infantry. I'm used to using so many more. I actually found 100 to be just about enough in this situation. I wasn't playing against an Alpha Strike army, so I guess that's what makes the difference. But yeah, 100, I did notice I was getting a bit thin on the ground, and I would have preferred to have another 50 guys. You know, a couple of lucky turns so my opponent could have cleared out my castle that was holding my objective. So yeah, that was oh, pardon me. So that was sort of my list. The tanks worked. The Hellhounds didn't do as well as I thought they would, and the infantry did pretty well overall. Moving on to the Tau, what I noticed straight up, the fact that the Tau only wound on 3s now, and we get an armor save against that, is very, very significant. I think my opponent was very much getting used to that fact, because my opponent Johnny was actually, you know, used to use his Tau more than his Blood Angels. He used to use Tau it's only on this channel that you think of him as the Blood Angels player, but you know, we're talking for 5-6 years it was just that Tau army. It's probably why it looks quite battered. You know, it's that Tau army has been to tournaments all over, and it has fought in every edition since Tau were first released. That army, actually, me and John like to joke, or like to reminisce. Johnny got that army when Tau were released, and he was at Games Day, and he bought the whole thing then. The only 2 additions he's ever made to that army were the Ghost Keel and the Riptide. And I think he's bought a few bits and bobs, like some extra stealth teams and an extra hammerhead. But that's it. You know, it's generally the army. The army has probably had less than £100 spent on it since it was... No. Yeah, because a lot of it was birthdays and stuff. So the army's probably had, in total, in the last sort of 8 years or however long Tau been out for, after its initial investment, it's only had about £100-200 spent on it. It's not a huge amount. So, yeah, over however many years. So it's absolutely crazy. So yeah, he's basically been using the same army for ages and ages. So he's really, really good with it. So my point is that it was for all those additions, pulse weapons have been the bane of guardsmen. They wound on 2s, we don't get an armor save. That's always been the way. Now they wound on 3, so that's 16% less damage, and then we get an armor save, which is another 33% less damage. So they're basically doing half the damage they should be doing, basically. And my opponent really noticed it. Like, normally he would fire, and if you go back and see some of the 7th edition battle reports with me versus this Tau army, normally those stealth teams would destroy a squad easily in a turn. Just absolutely just destroy a squad. Just dead. Dead. And he was having to combine the firepower of both squads to get the same result. And it took him a few turns to really start combining the firepower. And at first he was just thinking, why am I just not doing any damage? Why am I not doing any damage? And so that was it. So the difference to pulse weapons is massive. However, something I've pointed out to him, and something I've been trying to drill into him, is yes, your pulse weapons are, you know, half as effective if you take them on their own, but you have access to so many more buffs out there than you used to have. You've got access to things like Darkstrider. Your Markerites work completely differently. You get the Pulse Accelerator drone. You get Ethereals. So, you know, you can have you know, your for example, your Fire Warriors, 36-inch range, rerolling ones to hit, and what was the other thing? Pulse accelerated drone. Oh, and you can reduce, with Darkstrider, you can reduce the toughness of one of the units you're shooting at by 1. So that, against guard, that brings you to wounding on 2s again. Yeah, and with all your burst cannons, you know, the advanced targeting system. If you put the advanced targeting system on your stealth suits, which makes them AP -1, combine that with Darkstrider, you're back to where you were. You're hitting on your 4s, you're wounding on your 2s, and only getting a 6-up save. You're basically back to where you were. So it's all about, yes, your weapons are on their own less effective, but this is 8th edition. Weapons should never really be firing unbuffed. Every army has access to buffs of some kind, and Tau are no exception. You can no longer just casually throw a Fire Warrior squad shooting, you know, round of shooting at a guard squad and expect to cripple it. Now you have to play tactically, which is kind of how Tau used to be. So when they first came out, Tau were outside of Fish of Fury, Tau were a pretty middle tier army, and you had to be quite good at tactics to use them, because if the enemy ever closed the distance, even if Imperial Guard closed the distance, you got absolutely destroyed. So you had to be quite good at jumping all over the place and you know, target priority and all that. And it was only in the heady days of 6th and 7th edition with the Riptide spam that Tau really became the OP broken faction. And now they're kind of back to where they belong. They're kind of a middle tier army where you've got to take your upgrades, you've got to take your combos, you've got to use your buffs effectively, and you've got to try out different things and see what works. So yeah, so that's overall the sort of what I noticed about the Tau. You know, they have a lot of firepower, but if you don't buff that firepower, you know, you're not that great. You need to take your buffs. One thing I want to say, just in a general thing, is yes, the Tau army wasn't well painted this game. Honestly, a lot of the paint has chipped off on those models, and also it's basically been 3-colour tournament standard for as long as we can remember, with the occasional model painted very well. That is being rectified. In fact, Johnny has been painting absolutely furiously, and in only a week, he's painted up pretty much the whole army. I know it sounds for 1,500 points. He's got 1,500 points of painted Tau now. So we've got just a little teaser. We have another battle report with the Tau coming up. Tau versus Black Templars, 1,500 points. Okay. In that, both armies are fully painted. Now, of course, there's still a few broken bits, like the commanders, the feet are snapped off, and we don't have all the hover bases for the drones. But both armies are basically, which my rule for my channel is you have to be 99% painted. You know, 99% painted, minimum 95% painted. But I never use an unpainted model unless it's a proxy for a list. So that's kind of the standard we're trying to go for the channel now. So yeah, so you have another battle report coming up: Black Templars versus Tau. Close combat, foot slogging versus Tau firepower. It's going to be it's going to be an interesting game for you guys to watch. And yes, and in that battle, the models are painted up. So all to a reasonable standard. So you'll have that to look forward to. Johnny is continuing to paint furiously. He's got Tau fever at the moment. He's been using Astartes for so long, but he's got Tau fever at the moment. You know, he sent me a text the other day saying furiously painting Tau Fusion Commander. So that's going to be something we can look forward to seeing as well. So I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. I hope it's made lots of sense and it's been very useful. I hope you guys enjoyed seeing the Mordian Iron Guard back on the table, and I hope you guys enjoyed seeing some Xenos on the table. Finally, not Imperium versus Imperium. We're trying to get some more Imperium versus something else on the channel. We have lots of armies. We just need to get them painted up. Well, hopefully, my plan is to just to round this video off. We'll have the Tau on the channel for a few battle reports. Then we'll get some. We'll probably go back to some Imperium vs Imperium. Steel Legion will coming along slowly but surely, and also the Whisperings of the Warp. My Chaos Space Marine army is eager to be put on the table. I have a relatively large-sized Khorne army. Khorne Berserkers. Maybe we'll be seeing those guys on the channel in the next few months. It's not going to be anytime soon. They do need a bit of love and a bit of painting up, but we will be seeing them on the channel in the future. So hopefully that's something you guys will look forward to. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you found it useful and informative, and I'll see you guys next time.